Hey there everyone! As you can see today, I'm going to show you how to make some basic, easy and colorful transitions in Vegas, as shown in the preview of this video. I'll put some timestamps in the description and I'll leave some extra tips at the end of the video, so let's get going. So first off, you're going to need these two windows, media generators and transitions. If you don't have them, you can find them easily in the View tab window. And here you can click the ones you need. So the first transition we'll be doing will be the circle one. Pick your footage, make a gap between the two scenes. This is where the transition will be happening. Then insert video track, go to media generators and pick solid color. And just pick a color, whatever you want. You can change it over here in the color setting. As you can see, just like this. Then split the solid color and cut away the biggest part because you don't need that much of the length. Then do a fade in offset, go to transitions, go to erase and circle out center. Wait for it and you have your first circle. Always align the first fade in and the first scene, because otherwise, if you wouldn't, you'll get a weird black spot in the middle of your video and that's not what you want, of course. So we're going to do the same thing with the second track, but we're going to do a fade out instead of a fade in and add the same circle out to the fade out, and then you have a transition. You have your first transition fully completed. So if you think, oh, this is way too basic and too simple, you can always add the same or copy the same transition you already did. Create a new copy of the source media. Always pick the above option, never pick the create reference one, because then you'll make just a reference to the original media. And if you change one of the two tracks, the other one will change too, which is not what we want, so pick the first one. As you can see much change, so we're going to put these a little bit further and we don't need the fade out offset anymore for this one then. And change the color so you can see what you're doing, because if both colors are the same, you don't see any difference. Pick a lighter color or a darker color, and as you can see, you have two circles. Make sure they're not above each other, or at least not with the same length of fade in, because then you'll only see the first one, the one that's above. So always make a little bit of space. The more space you have, the later the second one comes, so the longer the first transition will be shown. And always make sure, if you do multiple tracks above each other, that the last one you added is the fade out. So this is the first one. So the second transition I will be showing you will be the liner wipe, which is one of my favorites. So we're going to do the same, make a gap, pick a solid color, add it. Doesn't matter again which coloring you have, you can change it. Cut it again, because we don't need the full length, because that's way too long. And instead of doing like the erase one, we're going to go to liner wipe over here. And we pick this one. It doesn't really matter which one you pick, just you can change it in the settings. I don't really like the feather effect, so I mostly turn this one off. And the angle, that's whatever you want. You can change the angle to every corner of your scene, doesn't matter. Pick whatever you want. So we're going to be fancy. We're going to create a new solid color. We're going to change it. We're going to use the same fade in. We're not going to change that. We're going to change the color, and as you can see, we have a liner wipe, which is one of my personal favorites. Not gonna lie, I love it. And add a fade out with the same angle as the fade in, of course. Well, you can technically change the angle But then I would recommend making your scene, like your transition, a little bit longer, so you have like, you can actually see the transition before it changes. So if you would change it like this, I'll just see, you can change the angle, but then I would recommend you making the transition a little bit longer. I'm not going to do that because I like my transitions in the same order. So this is the second one. So the third one we're going to be doing will be the board opening, which is how I call it. I don't know if it has an official name, but we're going to add another solid color and we are going to leave a gap. We're going to change the size again, and we're going to go to transitions again, but instead of liner wipe we're going to go to Venetian blinds. I hope I didn't butcher that. And we can pick this one because the last one is one I made a few days ago. So then you get something like this, which is one of my favorite transitions of all time. Though don't touch the feather, I guess. Well, I'm not going to touch it, but don't increase the number of blinds because you'll get something like this, which is not something for this video. You can make effects with those and make transitions with those, but we're not going to do that yet. So you can leave it like this and go like this. Doesn't matter. Well, you can always be fancy and add a few more, but I'm not going to do that because otherwise this video will be way too long, in my opinion. Align all of them, and we're going. And so the fourth one, and I think will be also the last one before the tips, will be, again, I'm going to add a few colorings first, but we're going to go to transitions and cross wipe, and I'm going to pick the clockwise hard edge because I don't like the feather again. I don't like that effect, so we're going to do this. And as you can see, they're all above each other, so you only see the first one or the above one, which is something we're going to change by moving them all slightly to the side. And then you get something like this. So as you can see, I changed the colorings because they were bleeding into each other because I only used 2 colorings at the beginning. But my Vegas started lagging and crashing a little bit, so I didn't record that part. But you know how to change colorings. I showed you in the previous transitions. So then you get something like this. Don't forget to add a fade out. As you can see, I already tried, but then my Vegas crashed, so I'm going to do it again. Clockwise or counterclockwise, that's for you to decide. So these are all the transitions that I have to teach right now. I'm going to leave some tips at the end of the video, or I'm going to show you some tips. If you don't want to stay for those, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And for the tips, I'm going to show you how to make some adjustments. So if you want a shadow or something behind it, you can click on these 2 cubes, the big cube with the blue cube, add 2D shadow, and as you can see, you already have a shadow. And in this little window, you can change the saturation, the opacity, the blur, the intensity, all of those things, and even where the lightning comes from. Which is, if you use a lot of these transitions, which is kind of a nice way to experiment and give some depth to your transition and the scenes below. And there are some video effects I wanted to show. For example, if you want like a gradient kind of effect, you can use the spotlight. As you can see, you can change the focus of it, and this gives more freedom than the other one I'm going to show you in a few seconds. So you could go to media generators again, then instead of going to solid color, you could go to color gradient and pick sunburst or black to white, add it, instead of using the solid color, of course. You can change everything over here and make like a gradient type of effect. I don't really use this one, but it's, if you want, you can use it. It's easier than the spotlight effect because you need to aim the spotlight first and add focus and stuff, so it's easier for beginners, I guess, but it's not my cup of tea. If you want, you could also change the shapes of the, instead of using the circles, you could also use diamonds. You can experiment with shapes as much as you want. You can experiment by using multiple shapes in one transition. These two, you could switch the angle. Wait a moment. Like this. Oh no, wait. I remember. I'm not good with numbers, so you can do something like this, which gives it a little more of a less simple, more fancy as looking transition, I guess. Also, just as you can see, I also have a shadow on this transition. Everything you change on this track with this will be added to the full track. So everything on this track will be having a shadow right now. Just so you know, you can change it by adding keyframes and putting a keyframe here and using this. But that's for another video, I guess, because that's kinda less basic than I intended this video to be. So these are the tips and tricks I can give you right now off the top of my head. If you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.